We put this panel on because an absolutely central core of MBA teaching is around leadership and management. And we were very interested to sort of discuss whether the approach to MBA teaching has changed, evolved, since the crisis began in the banking sector in 2007 and 8, and whether lessons have been learned, and etc. So perhaps could I ask Tricia to just comment on that, really, from an Ashridge point of view. MBAs, how have they changed the teaching in the last couple of years or so?
We've had to change the approach considerably because I think what the recession and the crash taught us was that what leaders need to understand is that a decision made by a financial institution in Michigan or New York affects a family of builders in Nottingham or Manchester. And that axis, that complexity, is something that all leaders really need to be able to grasp. So it's not just about giving leadership competencies anymore, giving them a sort of a horizontal development of influencing skills or communication skills or strategic planning. It's really about understanding the real world in which they have to operate. And Baroness J offered us 3 C's earlier, and I think I'd like to add to those. I think what leaders need now is a mindset that can deal with huge and volatile change, increasing complexity, increasing connectedness across their business, and a really deep understanding of their context. And it's a mindset that we have to develop, not a series of competencies.
I do agree that it's about the mindset. I do think also in business schools we are still lagging behind. We've been thinking a lot about this, but how much we've actually actioned it is questionable, or particularly how much we've embedded these issues into the curriculum, into the programs, is a problem, I think. I think in the UK we're actually lagging behind as well, even though many of these issues came from the States, but some of the schools in the States that I work with have been thinking about ethical issues, for example, and codes of conduct and ethical codes for a long time.
So do you teach that on the Open University MBA? Do you teach ethics and corporate governance? Are those part of the package?
They are, but I think what's more important at the OU MBA, for example, is we encourage or we emphasize critical thinking, and we draw upon reflective practice, we draw upon discourse analysis, and we put that very much into the program so that people are encouraged not to just take things at face value, but to think for themselves and to reflect on the issues and the activities.
Yeah, what do you mean by discourse analysis? What would that be?
It really means just to look at conversations that take place and to try to discern, let's say, for example, what's not being said, or to discern patterns across people and across meetings and across business units to try to identify the connects and the disconnects between what people are saying and what people are not saying.
Yeah, okay. Caroline, can I just draw you and ask you, have going to the people who are lining up to take MBAs, and was a tough time, I expect, to start with, because there was less money around to spend, but now, what sort of expectations do your students have? Have they changed of the teaching? Do they want a different sort of view of the world from their course tutors?
Yeah, I think students now, there is still the great demand for the MBA. It is still out there, but it has changed, I think, for the better, in that people, programme members, I mean, Henley tends to deal with the more experienced managers anyway, so they've had time out in industry, sort of pre-crash. And when they come in, they're really looking at, how is it the leadership, the faculty, strategic elements. Corporate governance is a big part of our programme, but one of the key elements that I think a lot of people are drawn to the Henley programme is around the personal development, which is always, referred to as the soft skills, but I think in business it's been becoming increasingly important just to have, sort of the continual evaluation of self, the self-awareness of how you impact on individuals, what your values are, your belief systems, so that you have the courage when business maybe does not take the appropriate course, which many people knew it was going that way, but they chose from a personal level not to bring that to the fore. I think to have the courage to stand up and say, no, this is not right, there is a consequence to that, but to have the internal value system to be able to do that, those are the types of leaders that we're really encouraging and developing at Henley. And that was actually our founding principle post-1945, and we've continued and developed, and it's stronger than ever, I think, the requirement.
You know, MBAs were a problem because MBAs, you know, put the leader as hero. And obviously, have you any comment on that? You know, because
yes,
it's worth having a look at that book,
sure.
actually. It's been republished recently.
I work with two very different kinds of MBAs on a yearly basis. So the Open University has a very different type of MBA student from the normal. We usually have a more mature person, people who perhaps haven't had as much formal education as in other programs. They're looking for, in some senses, confidence, legitimization, toolkits to run family businesses. So it's a very different dynamic, and codes of conduct and ethics are embedded very often because these people are people that are very close to the ground and to their people and to their customers, etc. The other type, I'm a visiting professor at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth in the States, which is a very, very different kind of institution, Ivy League, etc. And I also have worked and do work at Imperial College London. And if I talk about those types of students, they're younger. They are, as you pointed out, often focused on those sort of blue chip corporations or consultancy jobs, etc. However, I have seen a mind shift in the last couple of years amongst those people. There's a lot more cognizance of and interest in ethics in companies that are doing the right thing in good business practices. And they're often actually foregoing some of the traditional jobs in order to go to a place that they feel valued and that they appreciate and buy into the values as well.
So that's been one good thing, I think, about the crash and the recession. It made people reassess, hasn't it, the sort of businesses they want to work for.
Very much so.
Which you'll have seen, Caroline. The selection of jobs must be quite different.
Yeah,
to
and also when you travel globally, you know, sort of recruiting in Asia, etc. There's a lot of, specifically women I was talking to, that are really very entrepreneurial, you know, sort of focused. They want to go and make it themselves. They don't want to, you know, a lot of people now are not coming to an MBA to go and get the big corporate job. You know, a lot do still come because they want to change career, but a lot are very much interested in the entrepreneurship. We've got the whole Centre for Entrepreneurship at Henley, and going out and just having a go, you know, sort of making a difference is becoming the mantra for coming to do an MBA. Not and GMAC, you can see all the GMAC reports with what the main drivers are relative to you know, sort of areas in the world, and whereas years ago it would have been to get the top, you know, sort of salary. That is not the main driver anymore, which I think is a good thing for us to take away from this. People are looking to make a difference, and again within our MBA we take them to. There's a lot of working in groups, collaboration. So you know, you've got to find out your place within the group, but also going and working on proper consultancy projects on NGOs, which a lot have never experienced before, and that can be quite life-altering.
But I think what MBA programs need to do is to make sure that people learn from experience. It's not sufficient just to have the experience. So we need to teach people how to learn. Reflectivity, understanding their world set, challenging their assumptions, and making sure that those assumptions are fit for purpose in the way they're trying to lead their organisations. One of the things we do at Ashridge is we encourage peer coaching, and it's quite specific. We call it a feed-forward technique. So in small groups, participants are asked to share with their groups something they want to do differently, something they want to improve, something they want to change. And their group gives them suggestions, hardcore suggestions. What you should do is this. Why don't you try that? The participants go off, they try it, they experiment, a bit of action research. They come back and they share the impact and the effects. And that sort of forced reflection, plus taking in the different perspectives, really makes a difference, we find, to the way, to the worldview that they bring to different situations.